5 seconds. Start. Our relations with Pakistan have not improved much, but there are signs that in the near future our problems may be settled by means of negotiations. The alternative to settlement by peaceful negotiations is war, and that has to be avoided if human civilization is to last. Every nation is afraid of war, and we are living in an atmosphere of suspicion and fear. This atmosphere of suspicion can be removed if nations accept the 5 principles known as Panchshila, on the basis of which our Prime Minister negotiated the agreement between China and the great country. The policy pursued in international affairs by our Prime Minister is truly a national policy, and it has been appreciated throughout our country, and the country is proud of the achievements of our worthy Prime Minister, especially in the international sphere. Madam, it is a well-known fact that the policy of our party always support the policy of deregulation, debureaucratization, and freeing of Indian economy and Indian entrepreneurs from the shackles of licensing and governmental controls. The declared objective of the ordinance and this bill being so, we should have welcomed and supported the bill. It is not that I want to disapprove the bill in toto. There are certain aspects which I welcome, like I welcome in this bill that the trade legislation in the country has been moved from criminal jurisprudence to the area of civil jurisprudence. That is the way you should free the entrepreneurs of this country. They are not criminals. So I support the part of the spirit of the bill. I also support and welcome some of the moves like what you have started now, the Green Channel for cargo imports, but there are other areas where I must disapprove, and that is why I moved this motion of disapproval. The first and foremost is, Madam, this ordinance was promulgated on the 19th of June this year after the summons to commence the House had been issued by the President. I don't see the author of the ordinance here. He decided to own the responsibility for his involvement in the scam. None of us asked for his resignation. If he was here, I would have liked to tell him that he must show respect to the institution of Parliament. Once the summons had been issued and Parliament was going to have its session, there was no need to rush through an ordinance, and this I consider a disrespect to the institution of Parliament. Then there is another reason. I was expecting this sort of a legislation with a lot of hope. I don't forget the statements made by the Honorable Prime Minister on the floor of this House, and also by the Honorable Finance Minister while detailing the objectives of his budget or the industrial policy. The leaders of this government have been saying, and I refer to the statement, that there will not be a need to have an office of Chief Controller of Import and Exports. I would like to ask the Honorable Minister if it was not their statement in this House. What is being done? How is not a basic structural change? We are just doing a window dressing. Earlier, we used to call this office as the Office of the Chief Controller of Imports and Exports. Now we call it the Office of the Director General of Foreign Trade, a change in nomenclature only, much of structural change. Madam, I would like to tell the Honorable Minister as to what my intention is about the structural changes. We live in a democratic setup. The people of India elect their leaders to Parliament and Parliament gives powers to the ministers. I hope and wish the Honorable Minister had drawn an appropriate lesson from what the Finance Minister is facing today, the scam of this era. What happens is you take powers from Parliament and give them to bureaucrats, and there is no further check. With the kind of powers you have vested in the new Director General of Foreign Trade without prescribing what the qualifications of that so-called officer will be, I am afraid if there is no competent person, we will be left to the mercy of an incompetent person. We cannot be left to the mercy of a person of that type. No qualification has been prescribed for such an officer. I wish that the minister had brought in a legislation for that. Or if he has forgotten now, I request him to consider creating a forum, creating a mechanism. After all, trade is a very dynamic process. Every day, people in trade have problems. They can give suggestions through which the country's foreign exchange can be saved or the country's benefits can be maximized and losses can be minimized. At the moment, there is no mechanism other than an occasional opportunity for MPs to air their views here, to sort out these suggestions, to channelize their constructive suggestions on day-to-day basis. There should be a committee of members of parliament.